just when you thought you had figured it all out, your little one decides to change things up, and suddenly sleep is falling apart. Today, we're talking about sleep regression, and we're talking about, are they real? What you really need to know. And I'm going to answer some of the top questions parents ask when it comes to understanding the regressions our little one may or may not be going through. In our most sleep-deprived moments, our children will teach us exactly what we need in order to learn and grow into who we were created to be. These are the loving lessons we will learn whether we were wanting to or not. I'm Irene Googe, your sleep coach, and I'm on mission to educate parents on how to help their young children sleep. Welcome to the journey. So one of the things that parents often wonder is, what is a sleep regression? And is a sleep regression even real? Let's dive in and talk about that. Now, when we look at the definition of a regression, it is really the act or an instance of regressing. And another definition, according to Merriam-Webster, is a trend or a shift toward a lower or less perfect state, such as, and it gives the examples, a progressive decline of a manifestation of a disease, a reverse of an earlier mental or behavioral level, a gradual loss of differentiation and function of a body part, especially as a psychological change accompanying aging, maybe a gradual loss of memories and acquired skills, and a functional relationship between two or more correlated variables that is often empirically determined from data and is used especially to predict values, sometimes thinking a gradual loss of memories or acquired skill. Now, here's the thing. It does feel like our little ones lost this skill, right? It feels like we're backtracking. We are regressing. But the one thing to know is that when children are going through what they call the so-called sleep regression, is that it is actually a developmental leap. It is developmental milestones that are coming about because our children's needs are changing. They are learning and they are growing. And I often talk about, wow, what a great growth explosion. Like we're seeing all kinds of changes happening. We're seeing all kinds of learning taking place in this new season. So is a sleep regression real? Again, I think it depends on your perspective. It does feel very real because oftentimes what ends up happening when our child is going through one of these developmental leaps, we often will see that both feeding and sleeping will be the first things to change, because when our little ones are learning and acquiring new skills, they're going through change, these are the two areas that are oftentimes most disrupted. And so you might be wondering, when do these sleep regressions occur? So if you are listening to this, I'm going to encourage you to check out the link down below in the show notes so you can see the visual for the sleep regressions guide, where you'll see the developmental changes by age to help you become aware of when these changes might be occurring. And at the end, I'm going to share some steps and tools with you to be able to take actions if these things are happening in your home. So first, oftentimes we hear about the 4-month sleep regression. And one of the reasons why this is the one that parents sometimes will dread the most is because our children are learning and growing so much in this 4th month of life. There's a transition of going really from that newborn to infant stage. Our children are becoming more mobile. We may notice more rolling, more activity where they have learned and discovered their hands, their feet, and there are changes in the sleep cycle. Somewhere between 12 to 16 weeks of age, your little one is beginning to produce their own melatonin. And so melatonin is that sleepy hormone that says, yep, it's time to go to sleep. And so before that, our little ones didn't have that internal body clock, that circadian rhythm. And now all of a sudden it is developing. And this is where working towards 2 goals. Sometimes having a consistent wake time to start the day and a consistent bedtime can give us a little bit of structure and predictability in what we're going through with our 4-month-old. The other window where I see this happen is somewhere between 8 to 12 months of age. Now, this is a big physical growth spurt because we're going to see developmentally our little ones are going to try to be pushing up. They're going to be crawling. They're going to try standing. They're going to have a cognitive leap. Object permanence is going to take place. I oftentimes really talk about this being like the cause and effect. Somewhere between 8 to 9 months of age, we'll start to notice our little ones. If I drop this ball, what will you do? If I drop this cup, what will you do? And I kind of talk about this being the emerging toddler, like they're learning, like, if I do this, what will you do? And they're learning how to communicate with us, which is super fun and exciting. And of course, there's the season of teething, and our little ones can be teething so much during the first 3 to 5 years of their life. So they're working really hard to get those teeth in. And of course, that's going to look different for everybody. Now, one of the tools I like to share with families to just become aware of these developmental milestones is checking out the Wonder Weeks. The book or the app has both an understanding of what your little one is going to take place. But I like to share with families a simplified version. So during the first 6 months of life, your little one is going to be changing every 3 weeks. So as soon as you feel like you figured it out, there's going to be a change. And after 6 months of age, you'll notice that it takes place every 3 months where you're going to go through a developmental leap until about age 2. And after age 2, our little ones go towards an every 6-month leap. So typically right around their birthday and half birthday is when we'll notice the changes in your child's developmental journey shift. Now, between 12 to 15 months of age, our little ones hit this big milestone of really walking, really doing the things that we are doing, and they're super excited about it. So of course, they do not want to sleep. So what ends up happening is our children have like a heightened need for more physical activity. They're really cruising, they're walking and running. And a lot of times at this season, their canines and first-year molars are also coming in. And then right between 18 months to 2 years of age, our little ones are going through some speech and language developmental changes, more independence, and physical and cognitive leaps that are taking place, as well as those 2-year molars coming in. When our little ones are going through some of these changes, what ends up happening is they actually have a need for a longer wakeful window. There's also a resistance where our little ones will go through nap strikes, which are all age appropriate and developmentally appropriate for your little one. It is normal to get so excited about the things all around you that you don't want to just shut down and go to sleep because you're busy working on the skill. And I also see where sometimes when we're trying to do our bedtime routines or our nap time routines, our little ones are like, I think this is a really great time for me to practice my skills. Because again, developmentally, that is what your child is doing, and they're so excited about it. So I'm hoping that helps you understand what's actually taking place and knowing that this is a really normal part of the growth and development of your child. Now, oftentimes parents will wonder, how long does a sleep regression last? And this will vary from child to child. For some children, when they're making this transition, you might notice it for like 3 to 5 days. For some families, you might notice it for 1 to 2 weeks. And so there's no set time frame for how long a regression can take place. But what parents do wonder about is what can I do to help my child during a sleep regression? So one of the key things that I encourage parents to do is I encourage you to follow through with your consistent routines. Routines are what are going to help us communicate. This is how we eat. This is how we sleep. This is how we play in our house. So when we create these rhythms, routines, and flows, what I call flexible routines, they provide us some structure but they also allow flexibility for this learning process to unfold. One of the things that when I work with families as a postpartum doula and a sleep coach, especially during the first 15 to 18 months of life, I encourage families to be flexible with the nap routines because your child's sleep needs will shift. Sometimes our children actually do need a short nap and may need a long nap, and then maybe have another short nap as a normal, common pattern, especially when they're growing and developing some of these needs. So if you're seeing those types of patterns emerge, I want you to know that it's not only okay, it's also very normal. It's also very normal to see that sometimes your little one may not be on a schedule. You will see a lot of times when families follow a flexible routine schedule that you'll see their own schedule emerge in what they're doing right now. And this is going to be so different for each and every child because, again, their physical and cognitive milestones are going to be reached and achieved at different rates. So the first thing you could do with your child during the sleep regression is really work towards that consistent wake time and consistent bedtime. Having those two can really help your child have some predictability in the day. It will help you be able to have some structure in your day to be able to have those two bookends. The other thing is use your routines to communicate change. One of the key tips that I share with families as we have a child who's growing and developing and needing a little bit more wakeful time, maybe they are trying to assert themselves. A lot of times I see really smart kiddos right around 9-10 months of age where they want to be a part of the process. So let's empower our kiddos in the bedtime routines. And that's a key thing. So a lot of times we're still going to have that same bedtime routine, but perhaps our little ones will be a helper and maybe they'll help us turn on the lights and turn off the lights or turn on the sound machine. So giving our little ones jobs, getting them excited about the routine and have them be a part of it can be a game changer for so many families. One of the other questions parents will ask is, should I change our routine during a sleep regression? And the answer is no. What's key is to continue to keep that predictable, consistent response. Your child actually will use that to find safety and security in what is being communicated. Oftentimes, what I see draws out a sleep regression window is that when we do start changing things up because we're assuming our little one wants to do something different or we're changing the pattern, all of a sudden we can begin engaging in more power struggle. And power struggles and those bedtime battles make it frustrating not only for you, but also for your child because they don't really know what to expect. So keeping the routines consistent is going to be key. How you do the routines is what may change. And this is what I focus on a lot in any of our sleep coaching success groups. It's sometimes looking to see what little areas do I need to tweak and adjust in maybe how I'm showing up, how I'm speaking with my little one, and involving them and engaging them in the learning process as they're going to sleep. Another concern that parents have when their child is going through one of these so-called sleep regressions is my child's sleep regression normal, and will they be okay if they don't get all of their sleep? And here's what I would share with you, is that our little ones, they know, and we can trust their bodies in knowing the just right sleep capacity that they have. They're going to know that sometimes my body needs a little bit of a short nap, and sometimes I need a little bit of a long nap. And as parents, the challenging part is that we can only guarantee that there will always be change 100% of the time. But as parents, we're not always equipped to know what to do and how to deal with that ongoing change. So sometimes having to change our patterns, our habits, our ways of doing things is what can be challenging in this regression. But I assure you that sometimes when our little ones are so excited about practicing a new skill, sometimes they might even be doing it in their sleep, or they might be practicing it right before they go to sleep because they're getting that last little burst of energy out before they let go and drift off to go to sleep. And so it's not worth engaging into the power struggle with your little one and learning to communicate more effectively And also being just responsive, knowing how to be there and listen and observe what's going on, and being able to validate and empower our child in the process is going to be key. Parents also wonder, how can I support myself during this time? When our little ones are growing and changing, the key is for us to learn how we grow and change with our little ones, and knowing and understanding that our routines are going to shift and how we're going to do things with our child and encourage them to be responsible and feel empowered in the process is going to be part of the journey. And sometimes there's a little bit of grief that comes into this. And so it can be really helpful to have someone to talk to and process this season, because sometimes we might miss the things that once worked in the season before we hit this regression. And we're off to new things and maybe we weren't ready for it. And oftentimes it's figuring out, what do I do to take care of myself as I'm also taking care of my child? One of the key things that I encourage families to do in all my sleep coaching success groups is to figure out, what is that one thing I'm going to do to take care of myself? Maybe I'm going to enjoy this cup of hot coffee during our playtime window. Maybe we're going to go outside and we're going to listen to the birds and we're going to hydrate. We're going to go for a grounding walk around our home. So we're doing something that's going to fill our cup, as well as us showing up and modeling what it looks to take care of ourselves for our child. And oftentimes it doesn't have to be you doing something more. It is doing the routines you're doing, but making them better and making them work effectively for you and your family. And of course, parents wonder, will my child's sleep ever go back to normal? And usually one of the recommendations I make to families is, you know what, you might be going through a regression and things may happen for 3 to 5 nights, and we may need to change gears and come back and provide support and comfort for our little one as they're going through this change. They may need a little bit of support and assistance as they're learning these developmental milestones, especially when they're trying to stand up in the crib, or they're trying to walk, or maybe they get stuck because they're literally standing and they don't know how to get down, which is why those play windows are so important. But if you find yourself after 2 to 3 weeks, all of a sudden you're stuck in a pattern that doesn't seem sustainable, then that is sometimes where our communication has shifted. So getting help and asking for support can help you get unstuck and fall back into those better bedtime routines and rhythms. Another common concern and question is this teething or is this developmental? And oftentimes parents will be very quick to blame the nighttime wakings on it being teething. And one of the things that I would like to share with you that I have observed for the last 20 some years, looking and observing and watching children, is that typically when we look at teething, we're going to see teething happening all day long. It's usually not just designated to nighttime. So I would get very curious about what it looks like in your home. I also will share with you that we do see teething patterns. A lot of times when I'm talking with parents and we're looking at their sleep plans and we're looking at what they're going through developmentally, we start to see certain things that our children are always doing, which are unique to your particular child. So if you are noticing those things, sometimes our little ones will need a little bit more support and comfort, and it is okay. And if you have done some sleep training, it is okay to sometimes step back and come back into a coaching mode, because you know what? Developmentally, our little ones actually need that support. And it is not that sleep has fallen apart and your child has forgotten. It's just, hey, mom, hey, dad, I'm going through a tough time right now, and I could use your help. And so, especially when our little ones are teething, we want to do what we can to help support them through that process. And I will typically share that usually you're going to see fussy days and fussy night, and it can be a short-lived period. And these are the moments that we really do need to sometimes pause and figure out how we're going to take care of ourselves and be able to rest when our sleep is broken up through these developmental leaps. Another question parents will have is, can I help my little one sleep when they're going through a sleep regression? And the answer is yes. You can help your child at any point in learning to go to sleep. Sometimes when our little ones are going through a regression, that is a great way to be there and be supportive with our little ones. I'm always of the mindset we're going to create rhythms and routines where we're going to be there and be supportive. We're not leaving our child to cry it out. We can help them bridge that learning. I think that's really key in developmental milestones because sometimes our little ones are feeling very disorganized when they're going through a growth spurt. All of a sudden, their body's going through changes. They're experiencing things differently, and they don't know and understand what's going on. But what they do know and understand is that I have this loving parent. I have a loving caregiver who can come alongside me and help me deal with the change. And so that's why it's so important that we're taking care of ourselves so that we can show up and take care of our little ones when they're going through these changes. But yes, sometimes when our little ones are in a regression, this is a really great time where I really encourage families to learn and develop the skill of being still and tuning in and listening and observing our little ones in this new season. And oftentimes it is a new level of trust that we are coming to with our little ones and seeing just how very capable they are. And we're also seeing those changes unfold before our eyes, which is pretty awesome and amazing. So I hope this gives you a little bit of different insight when we think about sleep regression. I'm going to encourage you to read the blog posts so that you can see the different sleep changes that take place according to age and stage. And I want you to know that you're never stuck. If you find yourself stuck in patterns that seem unsustainable, that's a great time to be able to ask for help. Sometimes we fall into these patterns and habits that don't serve us very well. And so all of a sudden, we can become sleep deprived, and it's not really helpful for anybody. So I just want you to know there's support, there's help out there to get what you need. And you're welcome to join one of our sleep coaching success groups that's taking place weekly, where we talk about the changes that are taking place with our little one. We're dealing with the growth and development as we're going along, and we're becoming equipped with the tools that we need to help support us in our parenting journey. I'm going to encourage you to check out the links down below. You'll have access to the blog. When we look at the sleep regression guide and we look at the developmental milestones, we're going to see that our babies are in a season of transition. And yes, not only are our children in a season of transition, but we as parents are as well. Because maybe you were bottle feeding or breastfeeding your baby, and all of a sudden now we're starting to incorporate solids. And we know solids are fun before one, and their staple food is still milk, but we're also incorporating more solids. And so our little ones are becoming mobile, and they have new milestones that they're working on. So there's just a lot of excitement. Their brains are so excited about all the things. So while they're so excited about all the things, they are still quick to get overtired and overstimulated by all the new learnings that are happening. But yet, sometimes they don't want to shut down because they want to keep on going, especially depending on our child's temperament and, of course, sometimes even our parenting style. So these are things to take into consideration when we're looking to see what is my child doing in this season of the journey. And it's important to focus right now and not fall into the trap where we're like, oh my gosh, they're never going to get out of this, because those thoughts can take us down a negative rabbit hole and they don't serve us very well. So sometimes knowing and understanding we're in this season, we're all learning and growing, and we are all changing is a better way to approach it. So this way we can keep taking actions that will serve us and serve our families. And so now you know when these developmental leaps will be taking place, and you can be prepared. You can know that this is a normal, common place to be. And again, if you need help and support, and some families want to talk through and process that, that is a really great way to stay ahead of the game and be prepared and equip yourself and learn how to deal with change. I know that was one of my struggles. I was very resistant to change. I like things a certain way. I wanted to check the boxes. And so that can sometimes make it really challenging. In the season where I was a recovering control freak and perfectionist, I was needing to learn how to overcome those strategies and tendencies. And that is the reason why I really incorporated flexible routines and the mindset that goes along with flexible routines of learning how to deal with change as it comes along so that I didn't get stuck in those patterns and get so frustrated and end up with expectations that were unreasonable for myself and unreasonable for my child. I'll look forward to hearing how you're adjusting to the changes taking place in your home as your little one is growing. And again, so normal, so common, and just an exciting adventure for everybody. Thanks for tuning into today's show. You can see all of the details and show notes below. And as you go out into your day, I hope that you'll make it your mission to be calm, confident, and rested as you lead today. Sweet dreams.